Hello?
Hey, George, this is Bill Hernandez with RockBandReviews.com in Fort Lauderdale. How's it going?
Good, how you doing, Bill?
Good. I'm sorry. I didn't even hear my phone ring.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I was, when I saw the email, I was like, oh, man. Because I think it was, almost 40 after 1. So I was thinking I probably missed you.
You got a couple of minutes right now?
I do.
All right, wonderful. Well, I thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you're a really busy guy with the touring and everything, so we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to ask you, like in the beginning, like as a kid, did you know that you wanted to be a musician?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that speaks to everyone in the band. I think we were all playing between 5 and 7 years old.
Now, around that time, who are some of the artists that you looked up to when you were growing up?
I had this influence. I started taking drum lessons right at 5.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the person I was taking from was tapped into all of the really great drummers of that, late, music lasted a lot longer than, let's just say 70s era drumming.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, I grew up drumming the Average White Band, Tower of Power, who's the other guy who played a lot? Tom Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Like all these things that are super hip in hindsight. But at the time, it was just what was on the radio, and my drum teacher was just into these rad drummers, So it was like Dave Garibaldi and trying to think of who the other guys were. But it was just Steve Ferrone from who plays with Tom Petty now.
Uh-huh.
But just amazing drummers that were just the guys playing around at that time, So it was a good influence of really great musicians.
Yeah. Now, as a drummer, of course, you started when you were 5 years old. Did you take lessons, or are you kind of self-taught?
No, I took lessons from the guy who turned me on all that Average White Band stuff and all those 70s bands. I took lessons right away from 5 until about 15 when I figured I knew everything.
Mm. Now, what do you think it was that kind of drew you to the drums at that age?
Well, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I was so young that I'm having to rely on, mom and dad's version of the story.
Sure.
And but it's pretty much that anytime there were drums on any TV shows, I would ask about drums.
Ah.
And I'm pretty sure it was Merv Griffin who had Buddy Rich on.
Ah.
And when I saw Buddy Rich, I lost my mind, and I was like 4, and I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And my parents, of course, were like, I'm not going to get a 4-year-old a drum set. But actually, it's weird because I just on Sunday I just took out of storage a pair of bongos that my mom gave me when I was 4 to tide me over. Yeah, a pair of old 70s Dimgars. I'm looking at them right now. But so she gave me these bongos because my mom was whatever she was, 20 in the 60s and 70s.
Sure.
And so I think everyone had bongos if they had blonde hair in that era. But so she gave me these bongos, and then my dad went into a place called Mike's Drum Shop.
Uh-huh.
And that was the guy who taught me. And he said, I want to get my kid a drum set. And Mike, being the honest guy that he was, said, no, you want to get him some drum lessons first, because you don't know if he's going to stay into this.
Sure.
And my dad said, why on earth would I get a kid lessons on something that he can't practice on?
True.
And Mike said, well, you usually get a kid a practice pad and a pair of sticks. And then they get to practice on the set when they come here and see me. And at that time, Mike was more into selling lessons than he was drums.
Sure.
And so my dad wasn't going to have it any other way. He said, no, I'm not leaving here without a drum set. And so he got me a drum set that's still in my lesson room now.
Wow.
Rogers, an amazing Rogers drum kit. That then it was just a drum set of the however many brands there were. Sure. That was used at his shop. And it ends up being a Rogers Holiday, which is like every drummer's dream,
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, where did the band come up with the name Dishwalla?
Well, we had it was the one word band name era.
Mm-hmm.
and we had this horrific name that you're not gonna get out of me. And and so not like this new one's any better. But then we were sitting around trying to come up with a band name, and one of the guys picked up the little plate that's under his coffee mug at the Santa Barbara Roasting Company, and he says, "What about Dish?" And they were like, "Oh my God, there's all kinds of meanings for that. You could be dishing on somebody. A dish was a hot chick in the 40s. And
Yeah.
there's all these different things, right?"
Sure.
Sorry, I'm pulling up. Don't know why. So we went with that for a while, and then from I don't think what the attorneys for the Chapel Hill Records.
Mm-hmm.
There was something that it was like a indie label that really wasn't an indie label. It was really backed by a major, but they had all these really cool bands on it, and they had signed a band, and they were already pressed to vinyl. And they were called Dish.
Ah.
And so since they won the race to actually having published and pressed something, we had to change our name.
Of course.
Then, at this point, we've got this logo, we've got these beanies, we've got bumper stickers with this killer logo, right?
Yeah.
And now we're like, what do we do? You know, we've got everyone knows the band Dish, blah, blah, blah. So, had a bunch of techies in the band, so we had Wired magazine around in the studio.
Ah.
And one of the guys was reading it, and he was reading about these guys from India that they would get a satellite dish.
Okay.
And then they would pipe cable to their neighbors. And so it's basically, imagine if in your neighborhood there was no cable company.
Right.
And every 6 neighbors, one guy plops down the money for the dish, and then he sells it to his neighbors.
Sure.
And it's pirated cable to the neighbors. So basically, they're in India, a walla is a smith, like in Slumdog Millionaire.
Gotcha.
That's just what a person is that does something. And so Dish, they don't have something in their language for Dish, and so it's universal in any language. So a Dishwalla is the cable guy in India.
Oh man, that's creative.
I could have said that a lot shorter, huh?
Yeah. That's very interesting. My gosh. Yeah. Now let me ask you this. If you weren't as successful as you are being in Dishwalla and as a musician, what do you think you might be doing otherwise to make a living?
Oh, man. We've had the good fortune in this community of having a drum shop that was here for 40-some years. Mm-hmm. And so it's a lot of kids here drum in this town.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents are supportive of it. And it is a little unusual because it's a small town to have supported that many drum students for so long.
Yeah.
But I probably, if I were to stay in music, I would just be teaching. If I were to not be in music at all, the only option I gave myself, because the singer and I decided we would drop out of college and just go for music at the same time. I sold insurance for a little while.
Oh. So an insurance salesman, huh?
But I was only 19, so you can't judge me.
Of course.
I was 19, and I was doing an insurance gig, and I was exhausted from shows I was doing.
Yeah.
And a very nice woman actually I was in human resources at this point in a different company, but regardless, this very nice woman I worked with named Carrie Ellen came up to me and very kindly said, you really need to kind of get your priorities straight because you're kind of sleepy on the job here. Yeah. And I was like, you know what I do? And I came down and talked to Mike, who owned the drum shop, and he said, you know what? I can use some help down here 3 days a week, but that's it.
Nice.
And so all of a sudden I had already worked there Saturdays, so now I've got 4 days a week at the drum shop. Not teaching yet. That was just being fixing things and selling stuff.
Sure.
And, it didn't make as much money, and definitely, lost a girl over it. But, I couldn't do I couldn't do the office job.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me.
Wow. So final question. What's next for you?
We are, as a band, we're doing new material, and a lot of stuff I'm really excited about. we don't have enough time to do it the way that we like to.
Yeah.
Because what we like to do is be in a room together and just play for hours and then sit through things for good little nuggets.
Uh-huh.
So we're having to send files around, and it works, but it's it's not our favorite way to do things, but it's some good stuff. I mean, everyone in the band writes. We always have. It's a it's a funny thing because there's publishing put right on all the records.
Uh-huh.
And it's all split among all the members because of the fact that we are all writers.
Nice.
So it is. It's a nice thing in this band to be able to say, hey, I trust Scott to start or finish this song, or I trust Jim to do the same, or all around the room. And then still, get together in a room and say, you know what, I like that, but how about if we tried this, like we do when we're together all the time, But sound checks are going to be fun for people to sit in on because we're going to be working on new material, playing it live during sound checks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we're really looking forward to seeing you coming to town this Sunday evening with Jim Blossoms and Tonic. You guys have played together before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We toured with both those bands, and not in this lineup.
Yeah.
The three of us, but we toured for quite a while with Jim Blossoms, and then we did several tours with Tonic, and actually recently went out with Tonic and Vertical Horizon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward. We're going to actually come out. We're going to review the show. And again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And you think it's possible we can come back and say hey?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome, man. And
if you could let Annie know that I said that was okay.
Sure.
And then that way she can make arrangements for that to be taken care of for sure, because I'm a drummer and I'll forget.
Awesome. Let me ask you one more thing while I got you. If I brought a guitar, do you think the band would sign it for the Miami Dolphins Foundation?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we always donate guitars to them because their sports program is amazing. And they go out at Thanksgiving and they take underprivileged kids and they take them shopping for clothes and for food for the families and everything. I mean, they do a lot of really good things, so that would be awesome.
Oh, nice. Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you Sunday. Thanks again, and I'll send Annie the link once this is posted later this evening, and perhaps she can forward it to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, later, Blur. Safe travels.
Okay. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, George.